Veni Creator Spiritus, mentes tuorum visita.
Hello, welcome everybody. I am Jose Garcia, and I'm very happy to be able to participate in this Congress to share some of my understanding about the topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is natural family planning. Natural family planning is very dear to me because I made it part of who I am and my marriage when I got married 19 years ago to my wife. We both embraced it and decided to learn it and to apply it in our lives. And after a period of time, we decided to become teachers because we thought that we had discovered a very precious gift and we needed to share it with the rest of the community, with the rest of the Catholic community, our parish, and other parishes as well. Okay, so we have already given our witness in a different talk. So I'm going to restrict myself to talking specifically about natural family planning so that you can become acquainted with it and discover what it is and hopefully embrace it yourself in your marriages. So I've been married to my wife for the past 19 years. We have 5 children, and we're very happy to have practiced this method. I would like to start making a point, which is what natural family planning is not, sort of to dispel some misconceptions. For example, natural family planning as we teach it today is not the calendar rhythm method that our grandparents practiced several decades ago. That was their natural family planning method, and that's all they had. And it was less than perfect. It did work for regular women, but it did not work as well for irregular women. And the reason for that is because it's based on dates and calendars and mathematical calculations based on dates. The other misconception that I would like to clarify is that natural family planning does work. I would like to say that it is 99% effective. That's the efficacy, which is pretty high up there. And it is exactly the same efficacy as the best contraceptive method that we know today, the pill and the intrauterine device. They're both 99% effective. And the natural family planning method is 99% effective too, except for it's not a contraceptive method. And I will later clarify what's the difference between the two methods. Natural family planning, besides working for spacing out the children, if you want to postpone pregnancy, it's also being used a lot nowadays for achieving pregnancy because today a lot of couples are having issues with fertility. And one great way of trying to resolve the problem is by learning natural family planning and discovering that 80% of those couples that consider themselves having problems with fertility, 80% of them can achieve pregnancy if they simply learn the method and apply it. So those were the 3 misconceptions that I wanted to clarify. So let's talk a little bit about why the Catholic Church teaches that natural family planning is the only acceptable moral method of planning your family, the number of children that you want to have. The reason is because the Catholic Church is against contraception. Contraception, what it does is that it takes the sexual conjugal act, which is considered by the Church something precious given by God, something holy when it's practiced within the sacrament of marriage the right way. It's supposed to fulfill 2 purposes: the unity purpose of bonding the couple together, and also the purpose of procreating, having children. That is not to say that for every conjugal act there has to be a pregnancy. That doesn't happen in nature. The woman is not fertile all the time in the cycle. So we take advantage of that information and to learn natural family planning, to recur to the fertile periods when we're trying to achieve pregnancy, and to stay away from the conjugal act during the fertile period when we're trying to postpone pregnancy. The contraceptive method, what it does is it takes the conjugal act and it manipulates it, and it renders it sterile on purpose. Man sticks the hand into that act and changes its characteristics to make it sterile. Okay, so why is that immoral? It is immoral because, number one easy way of explaining it is that Jesus said in the gospel, what God put together, men should not separate. Well, God put together a sexual act with its pleasure and the possibility of bringing life about from that act. And when man sticks a hand and changes the method so that you make sure that no baby is going to come out of that conjugal act, then it changes the act itself and it stops being an act of love. Why does the church say that? Because the church has a very strict definition of what love is. The church takes its experience and its knowledge about who God is and how God loves, how Christ loved us. He loved us totally, fully, without holding anything back. And his love is faithful and permanent. And his love is fruitful too. So it has to have those four characteristics for it to be an act of true love, like we know it. The world can call love whatever they want, the feeling, this or that, but the reality is that we know what true love is, and we know it because Christ has demonstrated it to us and has shown us. And God himself throughout history, the history of the Jewish people, the history of salvation, has taught us what true love is all about. So when the husband and wife get together for the conjugal act, they're supposed to be recreating that act of love of Christ with the church. So the woman represents the bride, and the bride in theological terms is the church or the body of Christ. And the man represents Christ himself, the bridegroom. Okay? So Jesus loved the church fully, completely, surrendered himself to her. And so is the man supposed to do the same thing for his wife. The body itself has a language of its own. When you are communicating with somebody else, psychologists say they know today that 20% of what you're transmitting is your words. 80% of it is body language. But the body, its movements, its actions have a language of its own, and you can convey a lot of information just from your body language. So when you're experiencing the conjugal act, you're supposed to be transmitting true love with that body language. Even if you say nothing during the act, the body is telling the other person, I love you, I embrace you, I want you for myself, and I want myself for you, and I don't hold anything back. Now, the contraceptive language, what it does is it changes that language, and it says something like this: I will give myself to you, I surrender everything to you, and I belong to you, except that I will hold my fertility. I don't want to give you my fertility. So it treats fertility like there's something bad. So two reasons why it's not kosher, it's not right. Number one, you're withholding something for yourself, so it makes it a selfish act. Something that God created as a generous act all of a sudden becomes a somewhat selfish act. And not only that, but by changing it into a selfish act, it has consequences, because you're transmitting a degree of selfishness to your spouse. So even though you don't realize, it slowly but surely over time undermines the relationship. Okay, that explains why many women feel that their husbands see them as sexual objects, many women that use contraception, many couples that contracept, the woman ends up feeling like that, and that's part of the reason for it. Okay, so in addition, it renders the act infertile, and God's love is fruitful. Okay, so that for that reason, it's not like God loves, so that's why it becomes immoral, according to the definition of the church. So it invalidates a sacrament. If you have you're married in the church, you're supposed to imitate Christ in everything you do, including the sexual act. And by introducing contraception into the sexual act, you're sort of invalidating the graces that you could otherwise obtain during the sexual act with your spouse. Okay, so another way of explaining this is that why, because many people ask why, if both contraception and natural family planning aim at the same goal, which is to postpone pregnancy, why is one method moral or morally correct and the other one is immoral? Okay, two actions can have the same goal, but one action could be immoral the way it obtains that goal, and the other action could try to obtain that goal in a moral way. For example, if there's a couple, there are two couples, recently married couples, and they want to purchase a home for their family, that's a very good goal. You know, nobody's going to criticize them for that. But one couple decides to work hard for 5 years so that they can save enough money for the deposit. And then when they have money for the deposit, they can purchase a house. The other couple says, you know what, that's a long time. I'm not going to wait. We're going to rob the nearby bank and we're going to get the money and give the deposit. And we'll get the house, which is a great goal. But one couple, the first couple did it in a morally correct way. The second couple did it in the immoral way. The same thing happens with contraception and natural family planning. So contraception is the immoral way of spacing babies, whereas natural family planning is a morally correct way of doing it. So it's not spacing the babies what is wrong. It's the way you do that, the way you accomplish that. So besides avoiding introducing an element of sin into your relationship and attempting against the sacrament of marriage, what are other advantages, more practical or immediate advantages of practicing natural family planning? Well, number one, it tends to unite the couple. It unites the couple because you continually have to be talking about the size of your family, whether you're going to have babies or not at this time, whether it's the right time to have them. You have to talk about your sexuality, about sex, which sometimes, you know, when people start practicing contraception, it seems like they resolved that issue and they don't even talk about that. They don't talk about children anymore for years. So natural family planning encourages a communication in the couple. There's actually a study in the United States that is a secular study, has nothing to do with religion, and they studied what is the rate of divorce in contracepting couples compared to couples that practice natural family planning. And surprisingly, the results were that couples practicing contraception had a divorce rate of about 50%, which is similar to the divorce rate that we have today in our society. Whereas couples practicing natural family planning had less than 5% divorce rate. A big difference. And if you're a good Catholic or even just a good Christian, you know the gospel. Jesus said, by the fruits you know the tree. So if couples are practicing NFP and those the NFP practicing couples rate of divorce is less than 5%, it says a lot. Something really good is going on here. Says a lot about natural family planning. The other advantage is that it's a method that is completely free of any side effects. And as you know, the pill can be associated with a lot of side effects. I could spend another half hour talking about the potential side effects of the pill. Some of the most important ones that I can remember, number one, it could be life-threatening in some people because it increases your risk for clots and for pulmonary emboli, and people could die from those. And that's why doctors ask the woman, do you smoke? Because they're supposed to quit smoking if they're going to be using the pill. It can increase the incidence of liver tumors, including cancer, even though it's not as common to have liver cancer, but it does increase the incidence of it. In addition to that, it can change libido for the bad. It can decrease the libido of the woman, and that's certainly something that is not good for the marriage. It can change the mood of the woman and cause mood changes, because you're manipulating hormones, remember. So every time that you manipulate hormones in a woman, you're up to a surprise. In addition to that, it can be associated with extended infertility once you stop taking the pill. If you have taken it for many years, when you stop it, some women have a hard time having their periods return, and it could take months, even years, okay, or never come back. Especially the older you get, the closer to menopause you get, and you've been contracepting, the chances that when you stop taking the pill, that there's going to be a higher incidence of their periods never coming back. Another advantage of natural family planning is that it's a financially cost-effective method. You make an investment initially to learn the method. You go to the classes, you learn it, and that's it. There's no other financial investment. When you're taking the pill, or even when you use an intrauterine device, you have to schedule an appointment with a doctor. You have to fill a prescription, and that you have to continue doing for the rest of the time that you're taking the pill. So there could be quite an expense with these methods. Even if it's just the prophylactics, the condoms, you have to purchase them all the time. So in the long run, all that expense accumulates. A very big advantage of the NFP method is that the woman and even the man learns the body of the woman. Yeah, the woman learns about her body, how it works, how it functions. And many times she's able even to predict before the doctor that there's something wrong. So there's cases, there are examples of women that detected something wrong in their bodies because their periods all of a sudden became irregular after they had been regular for many years. And that was the beginning of a medical search that led into the discovery of a cancer on time. So you're more in tune with your body and what's happening with it. Also, it is immediately reversible. If no longer you feel that you have that you want to postpone pregnancy, all you have to do is just stop abstaining during the fertile period. You don't have to do anything else. It's immediately reversible. Like I said, the pill, it might not necessarily be immediately reversible. As a matter of fact, it's never immediately reversible, because once you stop the pill, the doctor will tell you to wait some time before you try to conceive, to try to allow the hormones to go back to their regular cycles. Okay, so those are some of the most important advantages of the NFP method. So let's talk about the method itself. What does it consist of? The method that my wife and I taught for more than 10 years is called the symptothermal method. It is not the only natural family planning method, but it is, I would say, the most effective method, one of the most effective methods, because it combines making observations about the cervical mucus that the woman produces normally, that comes from the cervix, the detection of that mucus when the woman starts entering the fertile period. That's one sign that you learn to observe, and you make annotations on a graph on a daily basis. You're observing your body and making those annotations. And also, you take your basal body temperature, which is the first temperature in the morning when the woman wakes up before she gets out of bed. Once you learn how to detect the cervical mucus and take the basal body temperature, and you have plotted all those observations on a graph over time, you're able to discern if the woman is fertile or infertile. Typically, in a given cycle, there's probably 7, 10, 11 days of fertility, and the rest of the time, the woman is infertile. So we divide the cycle in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 and phase 3 are infertile, and the phase 2, which is in the middle, is a fertile period. So if you're trying to postpone pregnancy, you abstain during the fertile period. If you're trying to achieve pregnancy, you do not abstain. As a matter of fact, you try to have relations during the fertile period more often. That's what the method that we teach is all about, but there are other natural family planning methods. The other one of them is the Billings method, which is exactly similar to the one that I just explained, except for it does not use basal body temperature. It focuses only on the mucus. And it's still highly effective. Instead of being 99% effective, it might be 97, 98% effective, which is pretty high up there, really. But we teach the symptothermal method because sometimes couples have a very they won't dare to practice natural family planning if they don't have a very, very effective method. They're not willing to take a 2% chance of pregnancy, or sometimes you can't because a pregnancy might result in a disease if your doctor has already told you or warned you against pregnancy. How are the classes taught? The traditional method, well, let me back up. We were trained by the Couple to Couple League, and their website is ccli.org. Okay, so this is a Catholic organization that has trained many teachers throughout the United States. There are couples trained in every state of the United States. And traditionally, we taught the method by scheduling a series of 3 classes 1 month apart from each other. And people or couples that wanted to take the classes, they would contact you and pay a fee for the class and show up that day for the first class, and a month later they would show up for the second one, and a month later for the third. So the whole 3-class series takes 2 months. After the first class, they were able to start practicing part of the method, at least. The cost of the method of registering for the regular class is about $135, something like that. It's varied over the years, but I believe right now it's $135. That includes the materials, and it includes a subscription to the Couple to Couple League magazine for a whole year, which you receive every 3 months. And access to the Couple to Couple League to ask any questions you have while you're trying to practice the method. You could show them your graph, or you could deal directly with your teaching couple. Now, for over a number of years, we have transitioned, and we have actually upgraded or improved or make ourselves more available to couples. Most couples are taking the classes online, so you don't have to show up to a class physically. Basically, you purchase the online self-paced program, in which you have access to a series of modules that will train you, will teach you. So instead of going to a class in a parish, you get access to the modules through the website, and just self-instructional. You learn on your own at your own pace. And if you have any questions, you can always contact a teaching couple that has been assigned to you, that you can always call them. But most couples finish the course on their own, and they never call us. And then at the end, you get a certificate if you pass, when you have finished all the modules and you have passed the questions and everything. Most couples, the young couples, are taking it that way. There are still teaching couples, physical teaching couples in each parish, but it's less than we used to be. There's another way of taking the classes, which is virtual. That also exists. So when you're going to sign up for a class, you go in onto ccli.org, and you're given a availability of the different types of classes, and you can choose whatever you want: online, self-paced, virtual, or physical class. And you, depending on your zip code, it'll give you a list of the classes available throughout the year in your area. The classes are taught in English or in Spanish. When you go to that same website, there's a tab for in Spanish, and it takes you to a different website page in which you can sign up for classes in Spanish. The same thing: physical classes or live classes, or virtual or online self-paced. This is, I mentioned the Billings method. There are other natural family planning methods that use newer technology, like the NaproTech method, but I've never been trained in that method, but it's more involved on a personal basis with a physician. It's a lot more costly as well, and it's basically about determining exactly when the woman is ovulating, and so it's a much more involved case. I would say that most people that sign up for the NaproTech classes might do it because they want to become pregnant rather than for postponing pregnancy, but it depends on the couple. All right, so that's all I have to say. I hope that this presentation has been useful to you and has clarified a lot of the questions that you might have had for years about natural family planning, and that if you are a couple, that you will incorporate it into your marriage, because I'm sure it's going to be a great asset for you, and it'll strengthen your marriage. God bless you, and see you soon. Bye.